This video is going to be split into two parts. Theory, where I discuss Nuzlocke's history and lore like some sort of incredibly niche college professor, and practical, where I talk about what actually happens during one of these Pokemon challenges, and more importantly, how do you become a seasoned pro at them.
That's just a theory. A
Nuzlocke
theory.
Winter 2010, also known as 0BN, before Nuzlocke. College student Nick Franco is feeling rather tired and bored. Instead of doing whatever college students normally do to pass the time, Nick decided he was going to go old school and start a new save file of Pokemon Ruby.
Boring!
No. See, this was going to be Pokemon with a twist. Actually, it was two twists. Two unique rules that would unknowingly launch the careers of several internet micro-celebrities. Say it with me, everyone. Rule 1. You can only catch the first Pokemon you encounter in an area. Rule 2. If a Pokemon faints, get ready to learn the dynamics of your ecosystem again, buddy, because they are released into the wild like it's bye-bye Butterfree. Alternatively, you can let their corpses rot as 1s and 0s for the rest of time, in a random PC box that you'll call Graveyard or something. Nick decided to document his adventure in comic form, and post it on the global bastion for everything wholesome on the internet, 4chan. And the antics within the pages would eventually accumulate into the title we know today as the Nuzlocke, a title Nick would then adopt as a username. The comic was a hit with the 4chaners, and not just because it was full of slurs. The emotional attachment between Nick and his Pokemon, combined with the increased difficulty and sense of accomplishment, showed people an entertaining new way to play Pokemon. Finally, after years of studying and research, maybe, just maybe, we have cracked the formula for making Diamond and Pearl fun. Humans then did what humans do best: copy, reproducing runs using the same rule set on the various main series games that were out at the time. It wasn't long before the early generation of Pokemon YouTubers got in on the craze too, because realistically, what else were they going to talk about back then?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going through the top 5 berries you can find on Route 206 of Pokemon Platinum.
Over time though, while the demand for Nuzlocke content stayed relatively the same, the supply to watch only kept increasing. Sure, there were innovations such as the Mono-type Nuzlocke, where you can only use mono of the types, and the Randomizer Nuzlocke, where you can find Spheals in the desert and youngsters in possession of weapons of mass destruction. But if you know anything about economics, this stagnating demand spelt bad news for the Poketubers. Content was fast drying up, like a river in the desert. All hope seemed lost until a blessing came in the most unlikely of packages. Nine years after Nick Franco posted his comic, Jaden Animations uploaded a moving comic on the same subject that would go on to gain over 90 million views, and the flood of normies wanting to learn about this highly niche video game challenge came flooded in. People would go from struggling to get 10k views on a Nuzlocke video to getting 1 million just by slapping their face in the corner of Jaden's video and reacting to her misadventures from an expert perspective. If you want a more in-depth version of the lore, you can go watch this video from Wolf Glick. But after hearing all that history, you might be in the mood to try one out yourself, but hold your horses, as it's time for a tour of the practical side of Nuzlocking, as I teach you how to become a pro Nuzlocker. Alright, now as per rule 1, each area, you're going to get a Pokemon. Unless you kill it by accident or don't have any balls. Sometimes it's going to be good, sometimes it's going to be terrible. In fact, sometimes it's going to be so terrible in the early game, it's going to make you want to delete your whole save file and start inputting your rival's name again. This is known in the Nuzlocke community as resetting. But only cowards do that. And that's not you. When did we as a human race decide to give up and stop innovating? Nowadays, People only want instant gratification. They play these games with speed up and infinite rare candies, putting in the least amount of effort but still expecting the best Pokemon every single time. By the way, you probably want to use speed up and infinite rare candies. They help a lot. Anyway, you might not know how to best use this Ariados over a Mega Beedrill, but that's fine, because half the time, you're not even going to be using them at all. That's because the most optimal way to Nuzlocke is to play the game like it's Metal Gear Solid, dodging the eyesight of every optional trainer like you've been imbued with the social anxiety of an average Pokemon fan. Oh wait, you already have that. You know, maybe Scarlet and Violet were onto something by making every trainer in the wild optional. This is great, but there will come a time where you must face an immovable object, such as a gym leader or rival. Your best plan of action is to, well, plan. That's right, the practical side of Nuzlocke is just more theory. Nuzlocke preparation is basically that one Sun Tzu quote where he talks about knowing yourself and your enemy inside out.
What do you mean by that?
The best practice is to use the stats of both your own Pokemon and the opponent's Pokemon to secure a victory by planning out each and every turn, getting a clearer estimation on how the battle might go. Trainers may even use a damage calculator, so they know exactly how much damage they are dealing and taking, even going so far as to 100% know what move the enemy AI will use and what they'll swap into after one of their Pokemon is defeated. Because of Rule 2, it is imperative that the player must at least try to complete battles without letting any of their Pokemon faint, or they risk turning up to the 5th gym with their team looking more like a solo run than a Nuzlocke. This is the main reason why battle preparation can take up to hours, especially in these new ROM hacks that give Triathlete Pablo over here a Mega Aerodactyl. You know, I think Sun Tzu would have loved it if he could have extracted all of his enemies' data, put it inside a calculator, and then stared at it for 4 hours. Ah, the joys of modern technology. So once you have thoroughly planned out how things are going to go and have basically already assured victory, your next step is just to click all of the buttons that give you that win in the correct order, and then pretend like you're some sort of genius for understanding basic pattern recognition. Then you repeat this process until the game is completed, with the idea that the boss trainers will become increasingly more difficult and require more preparation as time goes on. Fittingly, this makes it so the biggest challenge in a Nuzlocke is the Elite Four, as you're preparing for 5 times the trainers you normally would with only one team. The only adjustments you can make between battles being a couple moves and held items. That isn't to say uncertainty won't crop up at some points. Flinches, status conditions, and of course the dreaded critical hit are all factors that can throw things up in the air, especially if they unknowingly target down the MVP of your team. But that is of course why the best Nuzlockers account for these things too, by staring at a damage calculator just a bit longer than everyone else. Another underrated strategy is just going on YouTube and copying someone else that's already beaten the game's method with absolutely zero repercussions. Just like exercise in the gym, once this whole process has become too easy, you can make it harder by implementing more restrictions, such as not overleveling your Pokemon, not using healing items in battle, or not using setup moves like Sword Stance and Dragon Dance. This will increase your bragging rights, and you can tell everyone how you're slightly better than that other guy who beat a single player children's game. Anyway, if you want to learn even more, as you've probably noticed, I've been interjecting clips of me playing a Blaze Black Nuzlocke throughout this video. If you want to check out how it's going, the link to follow my Twitch will be in the description, and you can tell me how much I suck at children's video games. Thank you to my channel members, and I'll see you all in the next video.